Take your time.
What's up? What's up? Hey, peace, everybody. My name is Zahir Oladuni Mobalaji Ture, and today's gonna be the first episode of a new podcast. I'm gonna start. Of course, I'm gonna call it the Mageuzi Podcast for the Mageuzi channel. Mageuzi is a Swahili term, right? And it comes from East Africa, and it talks about making a reform, a change. And how I use it, I talk about making self-transformation. So that's the name of my philosophy too that I'm currently writing. It's called the Mageuzi philosophy, and it's about self-transformation and the transformation of ourselves from Black to African people, and understanding that process, and understanding that transformation, right? And so this podcast is aimed to just do just that, transform the consciousness of our people from Black to African. So for our first episode, we're going to talk about hip hop and its influence on African people, African consciousness. And I got my special guest here, Anthony McPhail from Louisiana. I want you to
Yeah,
say
Shreveport,
what
Louisiana.
city? Shreveport, Louisiana. That's right.
Shreveport.
I was thinking about that earlier because I was thinking, Kevin Gates, but he's not from there, right?
No, he's from Baton Rouge.
That's right.
The brother who's from up here is the one who made the song Halle Berry. You know, Hey Baby, and then
He is
Hurricane
from
Chris.
there.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. Hey,
Hurricane Chris.
baby.
Yeah,
Okay, that was a little bit of my
yeah.
era, but yeah, and
Uh,
I wanted to say, like, we got on this topic because I'm somebody, you guys are on my Facebook. Of course, you guys, anybody knows me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all of that, and I'm always sharing hip hop videos because I am a hip hop head. That's my culture. I grew up in it. I started off listening to a lot of Bay Area rap, a lot of LA gangster rap. That was really like my core. Ice Cube, Above the Law, NWA as a whole, the whole family tree going to Exhibit, Rozcaz, Tupac, of course. I got the Tupac shirt on now. These are all my favorite artists growing up. But then in 2005, right, I became conscious. I was about 15 going on 16, right? And once I became conscious, I stopped listening to rap, right? And it's because I started watching all these lectures. And I remember there was a couple of debates online about, like, is hip hop really good for our us as African people? Because I was starting to get into what does it mean to be African, and how these movements that inspired by Dr. Clark, Yusef Ben Yakinen, or even the New African movements, which Tupac was a part of. It's like, what was their perspective on hip hop? Because I was only getting, like, you get some of, like, I would say some of the Christians or other people say they got a problem with hip hop, and I always took the side of hip hop. It's Two Live Crew or Ice-T, those early 80s days where it's them who they're responsible for having the whole parental advisory sticker on rap, on music period, on CDs and all that other period. So I always took that stance until I became conscious, and I started to become more aware of, like, how this music influenced us. And that's when I started getting into, like, Dead Prez, Native Tongues, Brand Nubian, X Clan, and all of these Black conscious artists. You know what I'm saying? So that's been my history, my connection with hip hop, man. And I first want to start off, like, what's your history with hip hop? What's your connection to it?
okay. Now okay. Remember now, I'm a little older than you. I was born in Yeah, I was born in 1967. So in 1979, I was 12, and I remember when this group came out called the Sugar Hill Gang. You know what I'm saying? We're Rappers
Yeah.
Delight. I remember that. So mine kind of started like a lot of people did. With Rappers Delight. Rappers
Mm.
Delight and Curtis Blow and Blow. I mean, Busy Bee. Those guys, those early guys. From the late
Yeah.
'70s and early '80s. So that was my
Yeah.
beginning, my introduction. Run DMC. I think they had a I think they had an album came out of like '82, if I'm mistaken. I think it was
Yeah.
'82. Well, the one else is well, it's like that, and that's the way it is, and all of that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my introduction. My introduction to hip hop. The rap thing. Yeah, that was my introduction. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because one of the very first albums I listened to was was Doggy Style by Snoop,
Uh,
Straight Outta Compton,
mm,
NWA. Um,
uh,
what was it? I know it was like The Chronic, the West
yeah.
Side Connection. But it wasn't until I became conscious, right, that I was like, oh, I didn't even
Mhm.
know Ice Cube had conscious material, right?
Yeah.
It's like you only listen to this gangster side of Ice Cube. I didn't even know
Uh,
he had Death Certificate, and I'm like, this is his greatest album. It's considered one of the greatest albums in hip hop. And I just
yeah.
remember like even, and I'll admit this now, right now I'm saying it on camera, but when I would listen to all of this stuff, it had a certain impact on me, man, because I had like a rebellious spirit, and hip hop
Yeah.
fed that. You know what I'm saying? But in the early days, it was sort of like NWA was the prototype rebellious spirit to me. Them and like Ice-T. But it was more like I could say this word, bitch or some shit, like I could be bad, you know what I'm saying? And it's cool type stuff, you know what I mean? Or I could dress this kind of way. You don't like the way that I dress because you don't understand my language, my culture. You know what I'm saying? But it was more like I want to say like almost like juvenile rebellious spirit and mixed in with that kind of street knowledge culture. But I was just thinking about how it influenced me at an early age before I became conscious. And then I started listening to like, okay, what are they saying here? And I really started wanting to be like, it's like dressing dashikis or even start a People's Army, listening to too much Dead Prez. But it was just like wanting to read books because I was trying to understand everything that everybody was saying. So it was even like Wu-Tang, and I'm like, okay, what is a 5% nation? What is that? Or even Killer Priest had the like Hebrew Israelites, and I would just listen to their music and then try to go find books to study. So those are sort of like my two, like how it influenced me. Is this something similar with you?
Okay. Yeah. You know what? All right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say it like this. All right. Number one, the first thing is we as young black men and young black women too, young black people, you know, coming up from out of the 70s. You remember we coming from out of the 70s into the late 70s. You know, you had, you know, the majority, the Black Power era had kind of passed us by a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't want to say it passed us by, but what happened is the media, the white media, what they did was they they did the same thing to us in the 70s. What they did, it was just a repeat. They did what they did in the 70s is what they did in the early 80s and into the 90s with hip hop. Okay, well, we had Black Power in the late 60s, early 70s. What they did, hey, well, we'll flip the script on that and come up with these black exploitation movies. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
These movies like Superfly and everything. So they took all of that black cultural awareness and everything and turned it into something else. You know what I'm saying? So what
Yeah.
happened? They did the same thing. Now here you go coming up after the late 70s with the disco era, what they call the disco era, and then and into the hip hop with the Sugar Hill Gang at 79, and then to early hip hop with DMC, Run DMC, them and all of those guys. Okay, they took, I mean, where we started, where that rebelliousness that you talking about among us young black people then, because remember, this was the Reagan era. This was with Reagan. This was almost like a repeat. I'm going back to the early 70s, a repeat
Yeah.
of Richard Nixon. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, Ronald Reagan was the man who was governor of California, was against the Panthers and against, black nationalism, in black consciousness. So here he is now as president. So we was back in the same period of that awakening of that black consciousness among young black men and women. You got brothers coming in like Public Enemy around around 87 or something like that, 86, 87,
Yeah.
with Welcome to the Terror Dome.
Yeah.
You had Ice Cube and
A little earlier
NWA.
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So you had this beginning of an awakeness of consciousness, and and they turn around and say, well, we got to flip the script on this here right here. We got to turn this into something. You know what I'm saying? And where they took our rebelliousness and like what you were just saying about, being able to say what you want to say. But see, they flipped it and got us to call each other's niggas and bitches. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got to call it out a word that they use to mean and to dehumanize us, niggas. They was calling us niggas when they lynched us. They was calling us niggas when they threw the ladders on the plantation. And they done laid there and played a trick on us. Well, we call our own self niggas with attitudes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now we niggas with attitudes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we empowering a word. And you know, and that's just all a bunch of bull crap, man. Because like this here, I tell you this here. Listen to this here. I'm gonna show you how the trick played. Why don't everybody just take another derogatory word like a faggot or something? You know what I mean? Excuse me for the airways. Hey, why y'all don't use that? Faggots with attitude. You know what I'm saying? Those sisters with attitudes and all that old stuff there. You know what I'm saying? They knew exactly what they was doing. You know what I'm saying? They knew exactly what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? So they played that little old trick on us and taking our rebelliousness and all, you know, and that spirit of like in the period that we was in, because you know it was a highly charged period of racism when there's never been in America. Right. But you had the Reagan administration. You had everything that was happening in the Howard Beach situation in New York City. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Well, the brother Yusuf Hawkins, remember, they ran him out into the street, a car hit him. You know what I'm saying? We had all this guy had to rise down in Miami. You know, we had to look at the time period that we was in and everything. And so, yeah, I don't want to go on too long, man. I want to get ahead of the topic, man. But I was just trying to paint an illustrative picture, you know, of the time period that we was in. And, you know, and like you saying, the rebelliousness that young black men and women had and how they turned it around and weaponized it against us.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Russell Maroon Schultz said that in his autobiography. Like it flipped that from the he was talking about that same rebellious spirit, and they put Starsky and Hutch, Superfly, and he said they transformed it into like that. It's against the system, but it was more like how you would think about like my rebelliousness is like my success, like Jay-Z in the system. You know, that's
rugged individualism.
Huh?
Hey, that rugged individualism.
Yeah. Pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. I mean, and it works because it's like, oh, well, Jay-Z made it, you know, so what's your excuse?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it literally usurped the word, like how you were saying, even with the word, like they usurped the word freedom, and they conceptualize it in a way that it helps the system. And I thought that was interesting because when I read that on Russell Maroon Schultz, I was like, yeah, because he was talking about gangsterism. Yeah, he was talking about how much that influences the youth, you know, and that's what made me think about like even when I was younger and listened to NWA, and then a lot of the West Coast stuff, you know, it's all gang center. And so when I was listening to that stuff, I was inspired by all of that a lot. Even though for me it was a kind of anti-conformism. You know, it was a kind of it was a natural. I don't like this system. But the language wasn't there. But they provided some kind of context to understand, like, you know, give me a way of expression, you know, and this thing, you know, hip hop. But I'm noticing too is like how they flipped it, even like the era of the early 90s, which was another high period, we could say, because there's always something. Maybe it just goes higher, maybe at times. But, you know, I think about the Rodney King, the beatings and all that was going in LA, and you see how it responded to those times. And so that too was kind of an influence because it at least told me what was going on in the communities too.
Yeah. Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
But then, like you said, when they flipped it, we see like this new side of hip hop where there's the bling era, and like you said, the calling each other like the bitches and all this other stuff. You know, and I think about how those words are so important when we call each other these type of things, and how that degrades the culture. Because what I was looking at just earlier before we tapped in, I was thinking about Karanga. You know, he talked about Karanga and Malafi Asante's definition of culture, right? And how Malafi Asante was talking about culture is it puts Africans at the center. That's the point of it. We are telling our own story. So it's us. We are at the center. We are the people of our own agency, right? And Karanga is saying also it's the sum total of our consciousness, our behavior. It gives us identity, purpose, and direction. So I'm thinking, how does hip hop influence that? How does hip hop, you know, give us what is hip hop doing to our identity? What's it doing to our being? What is it saying? What values is it giving us? What is it saying about our self agency? You know, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. okay. Now this here is, I know that we gonna have a lot of people that don't agree with this. The first, okay, one word that we use, one little statement that we make that we should make is this right here. When we say hip hop culture,
Right.
to be hip hop is not culture. Hip hop is not culture. The hip hop is not culture. Hip hop is not black culture. Hip hop is not our culture. You know what I'm saying? That's not our culture. Hip hop is like is a genre. Is like a subgenre of culture. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, because okay, if you look at let's say hip hop culture, and let's look at what hip hop stands for, what it means today. When you think of hip hop, what you think of, or what you would just talk about, the bling bling. You know what I'm saying? The remember Ice Cube had this song. I can't remember the song, but you know, in his music, he used to have these skits, like you know, a kid talking, somebody talking before the song come on. We had this one where he was talking about the girl, to the little dude saying, "Man, what he wanted, I want like a car and money and dope and a big booty bitch to go with it." You know what I'm saying? That was, you know what I'm saying? That would have said, you know what I'm saying? See, that's what hip hop. That's the the bling bling culture of going out there and getting it, of flipping rocks and all of this stuff here. You know what I'm saying? Get rich or die trying. That ain't no damn culture, man. That's not culture. I mean, if you think about from the time they had a group, I'm gonna go back on you. Early in the 80s. This was a little bit before your time that you won't remember. You may or may not remember. It was a group, a rap group. I don't remember. They was one of the early rap groups. And I don't know exactly where they were from, but the group was called Wolf Ticket. You ever heard of Wolf Ticket?
No, I never heard of Wolf Ticket.
Okay, now, you know, they had a song called Your Mama.
Oh.
You heard it had a song called Your Mama.
Yeah.
You know, a song called Your Mama. You remember you heard that song?
Mm-hmm.
And like in that song, and this was like in the early 80s, like probably like, I think it was probably like about 83 or something like that. 83, 84, 82, 83, 84. Okay. Well, they was talking about, I got 40 mansions and 59 yachts and all this stuff, about what I got, all the stuff that I get. It was like the precursor to the bling bling thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was in the early 80s, about like 83, 84. Something like that. I mean, I was a teenager. I mean, I was like 16, 17 when the song came out. And I'm 59 now. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, you know, this was always, it wasn't about this kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, the brothers who you hear with the consciousness, they was the outliers. You know what I'm saying? They was the brothers who slipped in. That's why they had to kick them up out of there. You know, when you got a brother coming in and just like, remember Ice Cube, when he started doing conscious, more of a conscious rap when he left NWA. And he started doing more of the conscious thing. But what happened? Sooner or later, they went and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Man, look here. Next thing you know, he ain't about that no more. He making movies in Hollywood. The hell with all that messed up. He ain't about that no more." You know what I'm saying? Okay, they did the same thing to Public Enemy. Remember what I'm saying? Tapped Chuck D them on the shoulder. What here? Made them put Professor Griff out the group.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Broke up the real Public Enemy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Groups like X-Clan, who to me, my favorite group ever was X-Clan. They was the best to me. I mean, when I think of hip hop, as far as like the culture and like the positivity, as far as, you know, on our community, the only group I think of is X-Clan.
Yeah.
They're the only group I think of. Look here, what happened to them? Okay, we got to promote this gangster shit now. You know what I'm saying? We got to get all that black consciousness, and remember that African-centered consciousness. Because out of all of the groups, you know, PE said something, Cube said something, but the only one of those groups who were African-centered, who Dr. Karanga or Dr. Clarkman would even just say, "Well, I like them," it would be the X-Clan.
Yeah.
And you know, and the brother who was the leader of X-Clan, not Brother Jay, but the brother before him, his daddy was a great Pan-African out of New York City.
Sonny Carson, I think.
Yeah, Sonny Carson. That was his son.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he had a legacy of coming from, you know, they was really talking about something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But back to the what I was saying real quick about one mistake we make is hip hop being our culture. Now you're a brother. I'm from the south, from the southern United States. You from the
Yeah,
southern United States. We both from down south. Okay, we know that the real culture of our people is where we from.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's where we from.
yeah. Hmm.
I mean, and even though now today they got, we got Southern hip hop, and they try to, they got their own. I ain't gonna just say they imitate nobody else, but they got their own thing. And every now and then you will hear them sneak in some of that old good old black Southern culture here, every now
Yeah,
and then. But I'm just saying, but our real culture as black people, as African people in this country, comes from the South, and it's the culture that we created, you know, by that we had to recreate for ourselves here. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? You know where I'm coming from. I know the audience probably will, but you know where I'm coming from. But
yeah,
what I'm saying, I'm just basically saying we make that mistake calling hip hop our culture, though. Call it hip hop our culture. Because see, you got a young people growing up now. They actually think hip hop is culture. And so, what you mean? You think culture? Get rich and die trying is culture. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Walking around with your pants hanging off your ass is culture. Walking around with sisters with their ass all hanging out and showing is culture. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Twerking is culture. You get what I'm saying, man? Well,
Yeah, yeah.
all of this degeneracy that we see in hip hop, we think that's culture. That ain't no motherfucking culture. No, that's
That's a good
bullshit.
point.
That's bullshit that they all promote. Yeah, go ahead. I knock
Yeah,
off right
because
there.
I was gonna say, when you said what is that culture? Get rich or die trying, right? And so
Yeah,
that brings me back to like Karanga and Malafia Sante. It's like when we asked ourselves, what does it mean to be African, right? And that's one of the things I wrote is those 6 African virtues, right? So we know our people to be African, could mean a matter of virtues, spirituality or something. It tells you something of who you are, right? But when I do think of the hip hop, and if you're telling me, right, that to get rich or die trying, you are telling me who I am, right? You're giving us a mirror image of ourselves through a type of corruption. Because what ends up happening, I remember when 50 came out, G Unit, you know what I'm saying? Everybody in my neighborhood all of a sudden was from they either was from there or had a relative from Southside Jamaica, Queens. It was just a crazy phenomenon, you know. You know what I'm saying? Everybody started wearing these white tees with bulletproof vests, and nobody has any guns. Ain't nobody gonna get shot, right? But that kind of imitation, it does have an influence. And what is the deeper psychological roots of that? Like, because hip hop, I believe, it can be a teacher because it is a mode of expression, a subgenre, maybe like you said. But when we try to put that above ourselves, who's controlling that, and what is that message that's being conveyed to us? What is that saying about us and our people? That's why I appreciated X Clan a lot, because when I watched those videos, Funkin' Lessons, right, they had all those pictures. They would have Du Bois, Harriet Tubman, they had the African statues, and I'm just like, oh, what are they talking about? What is it? Or even that one song, Brother Jay, he goes through, he names all the Kwanzaa principles. And I was just like, oh, when I learned, I was like, oh, that's pretty deep, because when you start to analyze those lyrics, you start to hear it more, and it and
yep,
it, and it tells you that. But it's those images that they do matter, because I feel like at times what I heard, in defense of hip hop a lot was like, it's just a movie, one. Or it's like it's no different than movies when it comes to like the violence in hip hop. It's like it's no different from movies, and it's not our responsibility to teach the youth, right? It's the parents' responsibility. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Those are the two biggest. That, and I think like it's a freedom of expression. And number 4 was like, why are you hating on black music, man? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all black, so just appreciate it for what it is, And I didn't like that one because it was like, well, if you're saying it's up to the parents and the parents are saying we got a problem with the music, you're usurping that authority, right? But it's bigger than just a parent and child relationship. It's the culture and how we're viewing ourselves. You see what I'm saying? And what we're producing, and what we're producing being usurped and taken away from us. And then somebody's telling you this is what's hot, because it's not just selling with black folks, right? It's selling with white people and all this other stuff. So we call ourselves niggas with attitudes. Ice Cube even said he walked into the company and they was like, this is a good name for y'all, niggas with attitudes. You know what I'm saying? So who are you really appealing to when you make these messages? Who are you really sending this stuff out there to? And the difference between like the popular consumption, you know, I've seen this personally. Like I see white kids sometimes they get influenced, but they'll buy some of this music. But for us, that's we embody that when we hear this music, when we see T.I. in our neighborhoods or the rappers and stuff like that. It's like we are, that's us. You know, we see ourselves through that. And that's one of the biggest, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, man, because it's like we can't just sit here and act like it doesn't have an influence over our people. You know,
It has an influence. It has a negative influence. Hey, look here. I'm going to show you because a couple of things that you said. Okay,
yeah.
well, the first thing I'm going to say this here. When you said because it's us, you know, we see it as, okay, number one, the reason why, because you don't know who the hell you is anyway.
Right.
I'm talking about, you know, not you. I'm talking about, you know,
yeah.
Oh, you and me, the other you and me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The you and me, the you and me's right here before we came into our consciousness. We didn't know who the hell you was anyway. T.I. don't know who the hell he is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He don't know who the hell he is. You know, I mean, none of these young brothers and sisters who would say that know who the hell they are anyway. So right. What? Okay, I'm hip hop. I go back, look here. Okay. Now, what you were saying about how they said, well, it ain't up for us to raise the children, raise your children. That's the parents thing. Okay. Now look here. What was one of the biggest things? Remember when New Jack City came out? And you know, a lot of us, we was all wanted to be New Jack City Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Remember what he told his brother? I'm my brother's keeper. Okay, yeah. I'm my brother's keeper. Hey, yeah. that's Pan-Africanism. I'm my brother's keeper. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking out for my brother. You know?
Yeah.
So don't say, don't in one term say I'm my brother's keeper, but on the other term, it ain't my responsibility to raise your child. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole contradiction, like I said, you had a bunch of Negroes who was talking like they knew what they was talking about and didn't know what the hell they was talking about. It's just right now. They got this thing now. Well, a lot, you know, I'm talking about us in Southern hip hop. Well, you know, you remember when T.I. and Lil Flip out of Houston was going at each other. And, you know, and both of them recognized that both of them, hey, well, I recognize as those Scarface is the king of the South. You know, they had the whole king of the South thing. You know, with T.I. saying, like, you know, okay. What I'm just saying, I turn around, I sit up, I listened to that, I was just listening to that, the whole beat thing. And I thought about it. I said, now here are these two Negroes up here talking about another Negro being king of the South. I say, now go back and listen at the stuff that this Negro said. Okay, now I remember, I don't know if you remember, back at the time before Tupac's death, Scarface came out with a song, and I ain't gonna lie, the song was beautiful. I mean, it just listening at it. It was him and this cat, another cat from out of Houston named Devin the Dude. They had a song called "Hand of the Dead Body," and the song started.
Ice Cube.
It started out like this, you know, about we got this old mother sucker on a mission. Now, listen to they was talking about an old black woman, an elder black woman, a woman who dedicated her whole life for the struggle of black people and women in particular, you know. But this is for the struggle, Miss C. Dolores Tucker. That's who he was talking about. Oh. We got this old motherfucker on a mission. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a war against hip hop. Now I say, now you go back and listen to all of this food, listen at that same album and listen to this music. Songs like The White Sheep. You know what I'm saying? Songs like Now the Funeral is Over and the Tears All Dried Up. You know what I'm saying? Talking about going and killing another black man. All this music about killing other black men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
You know, this level of unconsciousness, you know, and right now, and Scarface, he's revered among hip hop heads. They've had, you know, they've been on the show they had where they honored him, you know, in the 50th anniversary of hip hop or something. They honoring a fool who talk about nothing but death music. Yeah, but hey, I used to be a big Scarface fan. Ghetto boy. You know what I'm saying? You know, until I woke up.
Right.
But I'm just saying, what I'm saying, this whole I'm trying to illustrate the whole point about this about this culture that we call this thing that we call it culture, when all it ever has been was about death music for us, like anti-black shit. It been anti-black, anti-African, whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying, against us. Because
Right.
you can say, well, they co-opted. Well, they co-opted it from the beginning when they said they could make money off of it. They
Right.
co-opted the story with Run DMC and Curtis Blow.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, man. I'm just saying, like, that's why I'm so against that term about culture. You know what I'm saying, and then when we talk about the impact, the only impact that it's ever had to me was negative. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is like Scarface. The only reason why the only reason why I watched the movie Scarface, the only reason why I know anything about the Supreme Team in New York and Alpo and all these drug dealers is because I listened to East Coast rap in the early 90s. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason I watched Goodfellas, Godfather, all of that was because the East Coast at the time, like especially Raekwon Wu-Tang, it was all about this, criminality rap, mafioso. You know what I'm saying? We the mob, we the mafia, and it gave so much honor to the Italian mafia. And I would go watch these movies, and what is the first thing that they'll say? Sell the drugs to the niggas in the hood because they ain't shit. And I'm like, why do y'all love these people so much? Why do we praise these Italians so much? It's different now because it's a little bit of like cartel, but I was like, bro, what? I never could figure it out because it was like before I became conscious, it was literally like, yeah, they all said Scarface is up here. Scarface is great as, all of that stuff, man. And that was something that I never could figure out because why aren't we talking about our own people? Like, well, anything from our own people.
Hey, Zaire, I want to say, can I say one brief thing real quick to piggyback on what you just said? And I want to, because I want to see what you think about it. Even our brothers, look here. That's why I said. That's why I mean the reason why why I had a perspective that I have because even like I said, we don't in the first place. Negroes don't know who they are. That's why you have people like brothers who like 5%ers. Well, okay, now look here. I'm gonna show. This is what I'm talking about. They don't know who the hell they are either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, and I'm gonna say this here because look here. Rakim was a 5%er. Okay, Rakim them did they did a music video. I forgot what they did. Look here, where they was doing the same thing, imitating Italian mobsters. Remember he had you remember the video? He had on his godfather, and he was getting into it with the mob man kissed his hand, all the stuff. It ain't about it ain't even not necessarily what you say sometimes, it's the imagery. So even him, a 5%er, buying into this mob shit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Representing pushing this mob imagery. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Even them Negroes don't know who the hell they are. That's why what they are, 5% of this here. Anything except for what they really are, African, and following African tradition, African culture. So I just wanted to interject that in real quick when you was talking about the mafia thing. Go ahead, bro. My bad.
No, that's good. I'm glad you do that. And I one of the things I wanted to do on this podcast, I just wanted to say the most controversial thing if that's what you feel, because I want to get it to where we can have real conversations. But I was thinking about that because then I was also thinking about the Chronic, and this was obviously my era, so it's just like when the Chronic came out, it really shut down a lot of the African center stuff because I remember hearing on that album like. They took it from this movie. It was an excerpt from this movie. I don't think it's the spook who sat by the door, but it could be. No, it was the Mac. I think it was the Mac because there was a part of this movie where the dude was just like, man, we got to get rid of the dope pushers, the pimps, and we got to start all over to getting clean. And then the Chronic comes in like, nigga, you crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that whole era, Minister Society, dude trying to play the Black Power music in there. And it's like, get that Black Power shit out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching little episodes of Martin where like the pro-black character was being made fun of, and they would get kicked out of the room. Everybody laughs and jokes on them, and I just remember like, why is all of these people attacking Black consciousness? I'm like in the music and in the movies, and it seems to come heavily out of LA at the time. And I was just like, I wonder what's going on here. Why is it that there's this deep in the comedy parody that the Wayans family did too? red fish, blue fish, and that kind of destroys the image of consciousness. Where even today, like the new thing is like calling people hoteps, oh, you a hotep, da, 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 da. And I'm like, I never understood why that existed. You know what I'm saying? How we could have X Clan on one hand, but then we have like, an internal enemy saying we don't fuck with that at all.
What did Malcolm X say about Negro celebrities?
Yeah, they're not our leaders.
Negro, they're not your leaders, and they are. He said they are put in front of you to push the message of the oppressor. You know what I'm saying? Okay, look here. We can. Okay, see, like the whites, they can say, well, no, they can say all of that anti-African shit, all that anti-black shit to you. You know what I'm saying? But it sounds better when it comes from one of you. You know what I'm saying? Because one of you can connect more. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So to get you, now, man, well, all that old mess right there. I remember this song. It was this song came back around by 84. They was from out of LA. The guys from out of LA. And it was two brothers. One name was T Toddy. And it was T Toddy and I'm trying to think of his name. But anyway, one of the rappers' name was T Toddy. Okay. And they had a song called, it was the dope song. It's all about drugs. Okay, now in the beginning of the song, he said, you got to have cash to make it these days. You could make it at least 100 different ways. You could stand in the street and holler and whine, but it's all about the man and the dollar sign. What he was talking about then, it was the brothers, they was even like the Nation of Islam brothers who was saying, leave that dope alone. Or the pro-black brothers, who was for us, for our people, our upliftment. Yeah. But he was saying that's holler and whine. It's all about the dollar sign here. You know what I'm saying? That was the beginning of that stuff. So what you do, you get all these Negroes who will come up and remember back even in the 70s in the exploitation, like Superfly, where they had the group of militant brothers who came to Superfly.
Yeah.
When they was in his club, and he was basically saying like, when y'all get ready to lead a revolution, I'll be right there on the front line. Until then, shut the fuck up. It's about my money. Leave my money alone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
About his money. They was doing it. It's the same old games out here. They was doing it back then. They was doing it back then. When they came out, you had a movie like The Spook That Sat by the Door, then they'd come out with some other shit, like Superfly or something like that,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And so right now when you have the brothers like X Clan and these brothers are PE them, like before they lost their mind and Boogie Down Productions and all of them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You had to counter it with what? With this other thing. And like right now, you counter it with dumbed down Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Who don't know who the hell they are and don't know what they're talking about. Come up with all kind of other stuff just to cause a division among the community. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that's what they do.
Yeah. I wanted to segue that into
okay.
I want to ask your opinion on this because I know what your opinion is, but I want to hear it again. Now, one person who I think is an embodiment of a little bit of everything we're talking about was Tupac, right? I think Tupac was a person who came up in that Panther movement, but I think he also embodied like this rebellious, what I would call like a kind of hip hop kind of spirit. And he kind of was a little bit of everything. He had the great songs from White Man's World. One of Keep Your Head Up, for example, I think would be another one. And actually a long time ago, he ain't gonna remember, but Professor Griff actually had a conversation with me about this, and he was just like, yeah, you could show me one or two Tupac songs, but I can show you about 10 or 12. It's not like that. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on Tupac because it was just like I seen him as a child of the movements, and he came up in the rap game. And he was very influential on me, especially when I got conscious. I heard about his new African history. Then I kind of took a second look at him. He looks like in one sense to me, he's a product of the movements, an embodiment of the culture. But with that embodiment is like a brokenness, like he kind of represents like the good and the bad. Like, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're saying exactly. Okay, this all right. I'm gonna give it to you. You asked for it. I'm gonna give it to
Hey,
you.
listen, give it straightforward. Pretend like I don't even got to
Okay,
say that.
my opinion of Tupac is like, okay, to me, Tupac is a useless Negro. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I say that. Okay,
Okay.
you ever look at I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna take it back to us, the black people. Now you know a
Mhm.
lot of us, we growed up in church. We growed up in church. You know,
Yeah.
our parents or our grandparents, you know, we were little kids, we had to go to church. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, in going to church, you say you have the pastor or you have influential members of the church. Sometimes
Yeah.
their kids turn out to be the worst ones ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the pastor's son or the pastor's daughter. You know, they
Right.
turn
Right.
out to be
Right.
the worst ones ever. Sometimes.
Hmm.
Okay, I equate that with Tupac. Yes, he was born in the movement. Yes, his parents were in the movement, and he was born. You know, he's his parents' children. But to
Yeah.
me, and of course, you know, some of the movement rubbed off on him. Okay, okay, yes, he had some black consciousness.
Right.
No, he had some African Center. He had some black consciousness. Okay, growing up because of who his family was, you know, his background. But
Yeah.
we had this is what we had to do. We got to separate that from him as a grown man.
Mm.
And as a grown man, when he died, he was full of shit.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? He was full of shit. Even though, I mean, you know, I know plenty of people. Hey, plenty of people say, "Hey, man, I want to see black people succeed." You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I want to see us do good. But at the same time, you out there doing shit detrimental to black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And you represent if you that kind of music you doing or whatever, you know, and people following up behind you. You know that shit was detrimental to black people. I mean, it's not pro black to be be having these battles with other black men and women and other black people and killing them, you know, and them getting killed as because of that. You know, all kind of shit happening on because of that. You know what I'm saying? Like with the whole West Coast, East Coast thing and all that there. And you know, just a lot of stuff, you know, the behavior that he had. Okay, yeah, he was a child of the movement. His
Yeah.
parents were Black Panthers. No, they was part of the movement. But
Hmm.
sometimes the child goes astray.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And because we don't know because we don't have the consciousness, you know, because a lot of people who admire Tupac and look up to him, you know, his legacy and everything, they don't really know nothing their damn self. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know, it's just, you know, hell, you know what I'm saying? That just he's Tupac, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, he just this like almost like this mythical figure to him and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But look at Zaire. I'm saying this here. If you got a movement, Zaire, and I'm a member of your movement, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not a dependable guy. I don't always be at meetings. I don't always hold up my end or whatever I need to do. I'm
Yeah.
always drunk and high. You know, I'm always doing, you know, I beat my girlfriend up. You know what I'm saying? I do
Hmm.
all kind of crazy stuff that you like, man, we don't need him around.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Right. Right.
you useless to us. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know, okay, it doesn't matter if you do 50% right, you do 50% wrong, because the 50% wrong can get us all locked up and get us all killed.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's
Hmm.
what I'm saying about Tupac. You know, they had a scripture. I remember when I was a kid, there was a scripture in the Bible. I can't remember the scripture, but it was talking about a wayward man. You know, it was
Mm.
about a wayward man. You know, he's wayward. I mean, you know, his thoughts and things are all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? His
Hmm.
thoughts, you know, he's it's a word they called it. He's unsettled in his thoughts and everything because he's wayward. Okay, sometimes he's with you, sometimes he's against you.
Mm.
No, what kind of useful revolutionary is that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Not.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I met members of people who helped raise him up to the point that he was, went out to death row. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and kind of talked about it, the kind of chaotic, kind of nature that he had. You know what I'm saying? So uh, I definitely think his when he got influenced, he kind of embodied whatever kind of group that he was in. It makes me think about the importance though of having that African centered family structure too, because it's like his name, and the things that he did bring, that if that wasn't there at all, it would just be the thug life, and we wouldn't be able to even pull a little bit out of this. You know what I'm saying? So I think like what it did show was the power that like even the Shakur family coming into existence is something that I think is an African centered legacy in terms of how we could reconceptualize who we are as a people and create new legacies here in our own image, in our own way. You know, because but it was crazy because it was just like once you understand the history of like the East Coast and West Coast Panthers, it's like, damn, how did you get into East Coast and West Coast, hip hop thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did that happen? But yeah, that was just my thoughts on that. Yeah, man.
You can't be a revolution is a full-time job. You can't be a half revolutionary. No, you can't be halfway in a revolution, halfway in the streets.
Yeah, a lot of people they have a hard time with that, because I still watch a lot of like gang documentaries and podcasts, and a lot of people they go into like Hebrew Israelite stuff or any kind of like nation stuff, and then they end up still in the street, half in the streets and half and it messes them up trying to go in between. And I think he kind of made his decision which way he wanted to go towards the end. That's certainly true. All right, man. I think we could wrap it up. It's getting to an hour. We could definitely do a part 2, but I like this. We definitely should do a part 2 of this, and I get a better intro here. But any final thoughts on hip hop you want to put out there?
No, man. I mean, I thought this was a great start, man. It was a great start, and like because we want to leave some the next time. Other stuff we need to talk about. Let's leave some the next time. We don't there. I think this is a great thing, man. I was glad to be a part of it with you, man.
For sure, man. I'll say, hip hop, something that was so instrumental in my self-consciousness. You know what I mean? It's something that we need to analyze and be able to analyze objectively, being able to take its side, not to just we got to start having conversations with us and not worry about what other people are gonna say and do about us. We can't always protect everything from everybody. Who are we to ourselves? And let's sit there and deal with that. And for sure. Till next time.
Yeah, make sure to send this to me, Zaya.
Okay.
All right. Okay, man. Hey, man. Great show.